All right, let's talk about a decision that can literally make or break your business. I'm talking about picking the right compliance partner. This is a huge deal, and if you get it wrong, well, it can cost you big time. So let's make sure you're ready to make the right call. You know, this quote from Paul McNulty just hits the nail on the head. We all know compliance feels expensive, right? But the real danger, the real financial black hole, is what happens when you don't comply. Let's actually look at the numbers here. And that danger, it's got a price tag. And it's a big one. We're talking $14.82 million. That's the average cost of non-compliance. And listen, this isn't just about getting a fine. Oh no, this is about your business getting totally disrupted, losing productivity, and your reputation just getting trashed. It's a staggering number when you think about it. So, to put it another way, getting it wrong costs almost 3 times more than getting it right. That's not a rounding error, folks. That's a massive, massive difference. And that should completely change how you think about this, right? Investing in a good compliance partner, it isn't really a cost. It's more like insurance against a total financial meltdown. Okay, so how do you find that perfect partner? Well, the search doesn't start with a bunch of sales pitches and vendor demos. Nope. It starts with you. You've got to take a hard look in the mirror first. Step 1 is just getting super clear on what you actually need. I mean, every single business is unique. What's your world look like? Are you juggling international data laws, or maybe it's all about local employment rules? Where are your weak spots right now? You have to be really honest with yourself about these questions, because the answers, they're the bedrock for your whole search. So, for example, maybe you're pulling your hair out over complex labor laws, or maybe GDPR is the big monster under your bed. Could be industry-specific stuff, getting ready for an audit, or trying to manage policies in 5 different countries. Whatever it is, you need to map it all out. Once you do that, you can immediately start crossing vendors off your list who just can't help you. All right, once you've got your needs figured out, it's time to start the trials. Think of it like a gauntlet, and the very first test is all about 2 things: expertise and security. Are they actually qualified, and can you trust them with your daughter? These are the absolute 100% non-negotiables. And you really have to dig in here. Don't just take their word for it. Do they have certified experts who know your specific industry inside and out? And this is a big one. If you need something like an ISO or a SOC 2 audit, can they actually do it? Because remember, a piece of software can't give you an official audit. And you've got to ask them, how do you keep up with all the new regulations that are popping up constantly? A great partner is always ahead of the game, not playing catch up. Now let's talk about security for a second, because the stakes are just insanely high. Get this, 98%. That's the percentage of companies who've had at least one of their vendors get breached in the last couple of years. Think about that. When you give them your data, their security problem instantly becomes your potential company-killing crisis. So here's what you need to be asking. Get specific. How do you control data access? Is our data encrypted both when it's sitting there and when it's moving? What security certifications do you have? Now, on the flip side, if you start hearing vague answers, if they get all fuzzy when you ask about their data backup plan, or if they don't have any formal certifications, those are massive red flags. Seriously, don't be afraid to just walk away. Okay, so let's say a vendor passes that first test with flying colors. They've got the expertise, they've got the security, great. But that's just round 1. The next challenge is all about the future. Because you're not just trying to put out today's fire, right? You need a partner who can actually grow and change with you. Think about it. A vendor might seem perfect for you right now, where you're at today. But what happens in a year when you decide to expand into Europe, or you launch a whole new service? Ripping out a compliance system and starting over is a nightmare. It's expensive, it's disruptive. You really want to pick someone with the future in mind. So you can kind of picture it as a journey, right? You've got your needs today, that's step 1. But then, bam, you're entering new markets, and suddenly there's this whole new world of rules to follow. And after that, you're expanding your services, and each one has its own compliance headache. A really great partner is going to be there with you for every single step of that journey. So how do you figure out if they're actually future-proof? Well, you got to ask the right questions. Ask them about their entire range of services, not just the little piece you need right now. Ask about integrations. This is huge. Can their system actually talk to your HR system, your ERP? And how much can you customize it? Because if you're dealing with a rigid one-size-fits-all system, that's a pretty good sign you're going to outgrow it, and fast. And that brings us to the final test. The reality check. What's it really like to work with these people day in and day out? This is where we get into the nitty-gritty of support, the real cost, and just how reliable they actually are. You have to remember, you're not just buying a subscription to some software. You are starting a relationship. And when some crazy new regulation comes out of nowhere or you have a fire drill question at 4 p.m. on a Friday, how they respond, that's everything. That's the difference between just a provider and a real strategic partner. So here's a quick reliability checklist for you. Are you going to get a dedicated person you can actually call, a real human? Get their service level agreements, their SLAs, in writing. Don't just take their word for it. Ask to see their business continuity plan. I mean, what's the plan if their whole system goes down? And this is critical. Do they have errors and emissions insurance in case they mess up? Getting a solid yes on all these points tells you you're dealing with a pro. All right, let's talk about the money. Look, it's always tempting to just grab the cheapest option on the table. We all do it. But with compliance, that is almost always a huge mistake. You have to change your mindset from what's the price to what's the total value. What am I actually getting for this money? And more importantly, what massive risks am I getting rid of? And calculating that total value means you have to become a detective and hunt for all the hidden costs. You've got to ask about everything. Are there setup fees? What about charges to move our data over? Is training included or is that extra? Do we have to pay more for premium support? What about updates down the line? You need the full, transparent picture of the total cost. It's the only way you can actually compare your options apples to apples. So, that brings us to the moment of truth, the final decision. After you've put your potential vendors through this whole gauntlet of tests, you're finally in a position to choose a partner. And it's not just a line item on a spreadsheet, right? It's a real strategic asset for your business. Because that's the real goal here, isn't it? To find a true compliance partner. Someone who does way more than just check boxes and keep you out of trouble. We're talking about a partner who actively safeguards your reputation, who gives your team the tools and the confidence they need, and who's right there with you as you grow. They're the ones who can take compliance from this thing that keeps you up at night and turn it into just another smooth, well-run part of your business. So as you get ready to make that final call, just ask yourself this one last question. Am I just buying a service to tick a box for an auditor? Or am I building a real strategic partnership that's going to protect and actually strengthen my business for the long haul? The answer to that? Well, that's going to tell you exactly what you need to do.